Welcome to Hockey Wiz Talks podcast. Today I'll be talking about what is wrong with the Buffalo Sabres. The Buffalo Sabres are an abysmal franchise. Year after year, fans of the Sabres are having hope that things will be different, but it isn't. It's almost like the Buffalo Sabres have been rebuilding since 2007, when they lost both Daniel Briere and Chris Drury in free agency. There are a few reasons why the Buffalo Sabres are always in the position they are in right now. 1. Bad trades and signings. 2. Failure in drafting and developing prospects. 3. Not enough depth on the team. 4. They don't have consistent goaltending. And 5. They don't have good coaching. The Buffalo Sabres have had many bad signings and trades over the past decade, which have led them to this point. Here are a few of the worst signings by the Buffalo Sabres over the past decade. In the summer of 2011, Billy Leno was signed to a 6-year deal worth $4.5 million per season. Billy Leno is by far the worst signing of all time. Leno only had 46 points in 137 games with the Sabres before being bought out. It cost the Sabres $7.33 million to buy out the remainder of his contract. Also in the summer of 2011, Christian Ehrhoff was signed to a 10-year deal worth $4 million per season. Ehrhoff is also a terrible signing that didn't live up to his contract. He is still getting paid by the Sabres and will be until the 2027-28 season. In the summer of 2015, Matt Moulson was signed to a 5-year deal worth $5 million per season. Moulson was never worth this contract to begin with because his production came from playing with John Tavares. Moulson played 3 seasons with the Sabres before going unclaimed on waivers in 2017. In the 2016 offseason, Kyle Okposo was signed to a 7-year deal worth $6 million per season. While Kyle Okposo is a solid hockey player, his production was inflated a little during his last 2 seasons with the Islanders. After signing with the Sabres, he never had a season where he had more than 50 points, and his point total has decreased steadily each year. During the 2018-19 season, Jeff Skinner was re-signed to an 8-year deal worth $9 million per season. The Sabres overpaid for Skinner because he was due to be a UFA in 2019. After a career-best 40-goal season, Skinner was re-signed to this massive contract. It's highly unlikely that he matches his production from last year, unless he plays with Jack Eichel. This contract will look bad in about 3 years. Here are a few of the worst trades by the Sabres over the past decade. The Ryan O'Reilly trade. In the summer of 2018, Ryan O'Reilly was dealt to the St. Louis Blues for Vladimir Sobotka, Patrick Berglund, Tage Thompson, a first-round pick in 2019, which was used to select Ryan Johnson, and a second-round pick in 2021. Berglund only played in 23 games before leaving to play in the SEL. Sobotka is often injured, and Tage Thompson has yet to make a real impact on the team. Meanwhile, Ryan O'Reilly won the Conn Smythe Trophy as MVP of the playoffs, leading the St. Louis Blues to the 2019 Stanley Cup. At the trade deadline in 2018, Evander Kane was dealt to the San Jose Sharks for Dan O'Regan, a conditional first-round pick in 2019, which was traded to Anaheim, and a 4th-round pick in 2020. Evander Kane re-signed with the Sharks and had his best season in the league with a career-high 30 goals and 56 points. The Sabres got virtually nothing for a 30-goal scorer that also puts up 120 penalty minutes. The Zach Kassian-Cody Hodgson trade. In 2012, both Zach Kassian and Cody Hodgson were considered highly touted prospects. After being traded for each other, Hodgson went on to be a bust with the Sabres. Didn't find success with the Canucks. He did go on to find success with the Oilers and is a staple on the line with Connor McDavid. The Brayden McNabb trade. On March 5th, 2014, Brayden McNabb was included in the trade to the LA Kings, along with Jonathan Parker and 2 second-round picks for Hudson Fasching and Nick Delorier. Brayden McNabb went on to become a top 4 defenseman with the LA Kings and eventually the Vegas Golden Knights, while Fasching and Delorier have barely cracked an NHL roster. And now a word from our sponsor. Check out my fantasy sports blog at hockeywiztalksfantasy.blogspot.com. Also visit my Facebook page at Mr. HockeyWiz777 and my Instagram Mr. HockeyWiz77. Another issue the Sabres have is drafting and developing prospects. Here are the first-round picks of the Sabres from 2010 to 2016. In 2010, the Sabres selected Mark Pysyk, who's a depth defenseman, over Charlie Coyle, Kevin Hayes, Evgeny Kuznetsov, and Brock Nelson. In 2011, the Sabres selected Joel Armia, who was a 4th liner with the Sabres, over Oscar Klefbom, Ricard Raquel, John Gibson, and Brandon Saad. In 2012, the Sabres had 2 picks in the first round. With their first pick, they selected Mikhail Grigorenko, who is now playing in the KHL, over Radek Faksa and Thomas Hertl. And with their second pick, they selected Zemgus Girgensons, who is a 4th liner, over the likes of Andrei Vasilevsky, Tom Wilson, and Toivo Teravainen. In 2013, the Sabres selected Rasmus Ristolainen. In 2014, the Sabres selected Sam Reinhart, who was a first-line forward, over Leon Draisaitl, who was a superstar forward. In 2015, the Sabres selected Jack Eichel, who was a slam dunk pick. In 2016, the Sabres selected Alex Nylander, a potential top 6 forward, over Mikhail Sergachev and Charlie McAvoy. If the Sabres had drafted correctly, the Sabres would have had a core of Jack Eichel, Leon Draisaitl, Andrei Vasilevsky, Thomas Hertl, Brock Nelson, Rasmus Ristolainen, Charlie McAvoy, and Oscar Klefbom. With this core, the Sabres would have the template of a playoff team. They would only need to fill out the roster. This leads me to the third issue the Sabres have, which is that they don't have enough depth on the roster. If the Sabres draft correctly, they could still trade Ryan O'Reilly and Evander Kane, but I would have made different trades for them. Essentially, the Evander Kane and Ryan O'Reilly trades will be used to add players to fill out the depth and add to their prospect pool. Instead of trading Ryan O'Reilly to the Blues, I would have dealt him to the Calgary Flames, who tried to offer sheet O'Reilly back in 2013. In exchange for Ryan O'Reilly, the Sabres get Dylan Dubé, Sam Bennett, Andrew Mangiapane, a first-round pick in 2019, which is used to select Jacob Pelletier, and a second-round pick in 2021. Evander Kane still gets dealt to San Jose, but not for what they got originally. In exchange for Evander Kane and Marco Scandella, the Sabres get Jonas Donskoy, Dylan DeMello, Melker Karlsson, and a second-round pick in 2019. With the inflation of salaries, there is no way the Sabres would be able to keep all the players they drafted, so they would have to move a forward and a defenseman. Brock Nelson is dealt to the Florida Panthers for Lucas Wallmark, Mackenzie Weegar, Sarah Noel, and a second-round pick in 2020. Then Mikhail Sergachev and Mitchell Stevens are acquired from the Tampa Bay Lightning for Oscar Klefbom, Dylan Cousins, and a first-round pick in 2021. With the addition of Andrei Vasilevsky, that would have given the Sabres a consistent number 1 goalie, something they have been missing. The fourth problem the Sabres have had is inconsistent goaltending the past few seasons. After trading away Ryan Miller in 2014, the Sabres haven't found an adequate replacement. Their best goalie was by far Robin Lehner, but he was often injured while in Buffalo. Miraculously, after leaving Buffalo, Lehner became a finalist for the Vezina Trophy while playing with the New York Islanders in 2019. The year before signing with Buffalo, Carter Hutton had a career year with the St. Louis Blues. But since signing with Buffalo, it seems like he can't stop a beach ball. Moving forward, the Sabres should roll with Linus Ullmark, who is much younger than Carter Hutton, along with Jonas Johansson, who is their starter in the AHL this year. Of course, if they had drafted Andrei Vasilevsky over Zemgus Girgensons, I don't think the Sabres would be in this position. But then again, missing on draft picks and failing to develop star players, with the exception of Jack Eichel, who was a given, is the reason why the Sabres are a failure of a franchise. And now, a word from our sponsor. Check out my other podcasts on SoundCloud.com/MrHockeyWiz777. Lindy Ruff coached the Buffalo Sabres from 1997 to 2013, a total of 16 seasons. In that time span, he had a record of .571, .432, and .162, and had a playoff record of 57 and 44. Since firing Lindy Ruff in 2013, the Sabres have had 5 coaches: Ron Ralston, Ted Nolan, Dan Bylsma, Phil Housley, and Ralph Krueger. None of these coaches has had a tenure longer than 2 seasons, and none of these coaches have a winning record. Dan Bylsma coached the team from 2015 to 2017 and had a record of 68, 73, and 23. This would be the best tenure of any coach post Lindy Ruff. Ron Ralston and Ted Nolan were both terrible. Ralston only coached 51 games before being fired. He finished with a 19, 26, and 6 record, while Nolan coached from 2013 to 2015 and finished with an abysmal 40, 87, and 17 record. The worst of the post-Ruff coaches. Successful teams and good organizations always find a way to get great coaches. A good example of this can be found with the Boston Bruins. The Boston Bruins have been the example of excellence in the past decade. Claude Julien coached the team from 2008 to 2016. Then Bruce Cassidy took over the team in 2017, and the team hasn't missed a beat. The Boston Bruins are not the most skilled team on paper, but yet they are first in the Atlantic over teams like Tampa Bay and Toronto, who have more overall skill. Why is that? Because Boston plays a team-oriented game that focuses on defense and structure. Where does that structure come from? Coaching. Coaching plays a great part in creating the culture of a hockey team. No team in any professional sport can win without great coaching. That is why if the Sabres want to win, they need a new coach. Ralph Krueger is not that coach that can bring the team to the next level, but I know a coach that can, and he is available. Gerard Gallant, who was let go by the Vegas Golden Knights, has a track record of turning mediocre clubs into playoff contenders. If you watched Vegas under Gallant, you'll realize that the team overachieved with the talent they had in their first season. It was because of his system that the Golden Knights made it to the Stanley Cup Finals in 2018. So what would Gallant bring to the Sabres? He would immediately change the culture of the team. A great coach is a great leader and motivator that can change the culture of a team the moment he walks into the locker room. Perhaps the greatest problem the Buffalo Sabres have is ownership. And if that is the issue, there really isn't anything you can do about it. On my next podcast, I'll be talking about what is wrong with the Chicago Blackhawks.